about to begin.
Hey, what's up, YouTube Metaverse? This is your boy MetaBro Jake, and you already know I'm representing the Super Meta Bros. And today, you guys, we are back. The anticipation's real. The Toons are here to bless your guys' screens once again. And you already know, you guys, MetaBro Jake, your main man right here. I've been working on the deck for months and months on end, you guys. Ever since the last profile dropped, I've been working on this deck. This archetype means so much to me, you guys, and it means even more to me that you guys enjoy this content as well, you guys. So this is the Toon deck profile, baby. Updated just for all you guys out there. Woo! Now let's get into this insane deck profile. Haha! Alright, you guys, let's get into this amazing 43 card Toon deck profile, baby, that your boy MetaBro Jake is currently running. Let's go, baby. Woo! We're going to start things off with the monsters. First monster we're going with is the boss monster himself. 3 Toon BLS, you guys. This card is indeed the boss monster of the deck. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by tributing Toon monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal 8 or more. So it could always be more, you guys. If you open up with like a Toon Dark Magician and a Toon Red Eyes, you could just pitch them both off to special summon this guy, or he could even pitch himself to special summon him. So that's pretty good. Also, while you control Toon World and your opponent controls no Toon monsters, this card can attack directly. So that's just like a normal Toon effect. But this card does not have summoning sickness. He can attack your opponent on the very first turn he is summoned for 3k. So definitely puts a lot of pressure on board. Also, once per turn, if you control Toon World, you can target one card on the field, banish it, but the card cannot attack the turn he activates this effect. So you can just get rid of any problematic card on your opponent's board, banish it, and just go ahead and get ready for that Toon lock, baby. So you got to run 3 Toon BLS. It's just mandatory. Staple in the strategy. For my next Toon monsters, I'm running the 2 Toon Dark Magicians. Now, this card's definitely cloggy at 3. That's why I kind of run it at 2. But it's a very, very good card that once you get out, he's like a searcher. He could get you any of the Toon spell or trap cards. Or he could special summon any Toon monster from the deck directly to the field, ignoring its summoning conditions. Well, all you got to do to activate his effect is you have to tribute a Toon card from your hand. So it could be any Toon card to special summon the BLS, or to get your Toon bookmark, to get your Toon Kingdom. There's just, the possibilities are endless with this card, but just opening up with multiples of this card is very bad. So that's why I cut him down to 2. So 2 Toon Dark Magicians is a very good number. And then for the other two of monsters, I run the 2 Red Eyes Toon Dragon. Now, same thing with the Dark Magician. It's a little cloggy if you open up with multiples, but this card's also very good. You don't need Toon Kingdom to activate this card's effect. So you could special summon 1 Toon monster from your hand except Red Eyes Toon Dragon, ignoring its summoning conditions. So it's very, very good. These cards do have summoning sickness, so they cannot attack on the first turn. But to be able to let you special summon any Toon monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions, is just way too good. So Red Eyes Toon is at 2. Also, the reason I run it at 2 is because the normal summon of this deck can recycle this card. So Red Eyes Toon at 2 is very, very good. Alright, off to the last Toon monster, I run the 1 Toon Harpy Lady. Now, she's very good. She could pop a back row. If you control another Toon monster, you could activate her effect to special summon herself, and then she could pop the back row. And then also, she's the 4th name for the Toon page flip. So just in case, you know, if you open up with a Red Eyes Toon, and then you happen to banish a Red Eyes Toon from the deck when you activate your Kingdom, this is just your 3rd name that you could go into the page flip. You know, it's not that great, but she's just good to just be that extra name. And she's very useful. All the Toons that I run in this deck, they cannot be destroyed when Toon Kingdom is destroyed, so that's very good. That's the only problem I have with the old Toon monsters. So I'm trying to make this deck as competitively as possible, and you don't want to open up multiples of these if you don't have to. This is actually one of those cards where you search it. After you already have your board kind of established, you search it, and then you activate its effect to pop the back row. That's how you make use of it. So Toon Harpy Lady, very good at 1. That's it for my Toon monsters. Now going into the normal summon of the deck, I run the 3 Black Stone of Legend. Now this is just an honorary Toon card. You normal summon this card, then you contribute it to special summon a Red Eyes monster from the deck directly to the field. So you go into your Toon Red Eyes. And then this card has a good secondary effect. If it's in the graveyard, you could add this card back to your hand from the graveyard by shuffling back a Red Eyes monster from the graveyard back into the deck. So if this card's in your graveyard and a Red Eyes Toon's in your graveyard, you can activate its effect and shuffle the Red Eyes back in and get this card back to your hand for your follow-up play. You can just do it again. Or it makes your Toon page flip live again by sending in the Red Eyes back into the deck and you having that third name for you to go into. So Blackstone of Legend, very good at 3. And then for my hand traps, I'm running the 3, the most versatile hand trap in the game, Ash Blossom Joyous Spring. It just hits nearly every deck. It hits Red Eyes Fusion. Very, very good card. It's just the most generic, and this card could always be sided out for any other hand traps in the side. You just gotta run it at 3, you guys. Just most generic, that's it. And then for my last hand trap, I'm running 2 of Effect Veiler. I chose to go with Effect Veiler over Imperm in this build because Effect Veiler, you could use it multiple times on your opponent's turn. So just in case your opponent has some shenanigans, you can always hit one monster, and then if they try to go into another monster activates effect, you could just use the other one if you happen to open up with 2. But Effect Veiler is also a level 1, so if you absolutely had to, you could normal summon and then link off for any of the link ones that I have in the extra deck. So Effect Veiler is really, really good. Gotta run it at 2. And then also for my last of 2 monsters, you gotta run the vanillas, you guys, for the Dragoon package. Because this is a Toon build. And Dragoon's just icing on the cake. Once you have the Toon lock, and if you could get Dragoon to the field, then you most of the time, like 98% of the time, you're gonna win. So you gotta run the vanillas. It sucks opening up with these though, you guys, but that's why the build is 43 cards. So it's a less likely chance of you opening up with one or both of them. So that's it for my monster count, you guys. A total of 18 monsters. Now let's go on to the spells. Alright, you guys, going into the spells. Now, you got to start off with the best field spell in all the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I got to go with 3 Toon Kingdoms, you guys. Now, obviously, in a Toon build, you got to max out on this card. But this card literally is the best card for the whole strategy, guys. When this card's activated, you banish the top 3 cards of your deck face down. But that effect does not go down unless it's fully resolved, you guys. So if your opponent chains a Cosmic Cyclone or Twin Twister on the activation of this card, you do not have to banish 3 cards from the top of your deck. It's on resolution where you got to banish the cards. So just remember that for next time you play, because I know some people will try to make you still banish the top 3 cards from your deck. Also, this card name becomes Toon World while it's on the field, so definitely is what you need for the deck. And also, your opponent cannot target Toon monsters you control with card effects, which is really, really helpful because a lot of cards in the meta nowadays, they target. And also, if a Toon monsters you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish 1 card from the top of your deck face down for each of those monsters instead. So just protection for the Toons, man. This card is just legendary, so you definitely got to run it at 3. Also, though, I'm running the 1 Terraforming to try to get to that kingdom as soon as you can, you guys. It's mandatory. Then next spells I'm going with, my Toon spells. You gotta run the 3 Toon page flip. Now, this is definitely 1 card's ratio I've been playing around with these past couple months. Now, in a lot of my previous builds, I was running this card at 2 because it is kind of cloggy when you open up multiples in the first hand. But you definitely need to open up with at least 1 in the first hand. It gets a Toon monster out to the field. That's what you need. And it's a quick play spell on top of that. So at worst, you could just set it and activate it on your opponent's turn when they either try to blow up your field or when you know they're going to try to go in for a direct attack. Toon page flip, definitely at 3 in this current build. Then for some more, for my Toon searchers now, let's go, baby. 3 Toon table of contents, just the best searcher in all the strategy. This card is not once per turn, and you just add 1 Toon card from your deck to your hand. So any card that lists Toon in its name, you could add from deck to hand, and that's even including itself, guys. But you never want to do that. You don't want to burn out your resources, especially in this build. So Toon table of contents, but if you open up with multiples in your first hand, it's very, very good because at least you could just use 1 as bait for the Ash or for a hand trap that your opponent might have. So Toon table of contents at 3 is mandatory. Also, for my last Toon searcher and one of my personal favorite cards in all the game, 3, Toon bookmark. You guys, this bookmark is just way too good. It's another searcher for the deck, but this card's a little bit different than Toon table of contents. This card lets you add 1 Toon World or 1 card that specifically lists the card Toon World in its text from your deck to your hand. So that means, you guys, this card lets you search out Comic Hand, and that's just way too broken. Comic Hand steals one of your opponent's monsters, makes it a Toon. Man, Toon bookmark can definitely search that out. Also, though, it has a secondary effect that's really, really good. When it's in the graveyard and your Toon World gets destroyed by a card effect, you could banish this card from the graveyard instead to protect it. So this offers protection for the kingdom, and that's really, really good. So Toon bookmark, definitely at 3. The only downside to this card is it's once per turn. So in my personal opinion, I wouldn't recommend activating this card first, in your very first card that you activate in your game, because if your opponent hits it, then you're down. You can only activate 1 bookmark per turn, so I would save this one. I would try to bait out a table of contents before I baited this one out, because this one just could get you that Comic Hand, you guys, and sometimes that's what you need to win the game. So bookmark, definitely at 3. Now, going into my other spells to counter some back row, I got the 2 Cosmic Cyclone, you guys. I run the Cosmic Cyclone in the deck because you fear the Imperial Order. If your opponent goes to activate Imperial Order and you're going second, you could just chain this card right from your hand and banish that Imperial Order for good. So Cosmic Cyclone's really, really good. And then for more back row hate, I run the 2 Lightning Storms. I was running this card at 3 in all my other builds, you guys, but I had to cut it down to 2 because you do want to go first with this deck. You want to set up that Toon wall as soon as you absolutely can. But for some reason, if you happen to lose the dice roll and you go second, this card could just hit your opponent's back row that's full of Solemn Strikes and Solemn Judgments and all that. It'll either force the judgment out, or they'll just let their whole back row go, and then you could just go on with your plays. So Lightning Storm is very, very good. Or if you could catch your opponent slipping where they put all their monsters in attack, then that's even better. So Lightning Storm at 2, I had to cut it down from 3. And then another very, very good card. This deck could get hurt by a well-placed hand trap, so you got to run something to defend against that. I run the 2 Triple Tactics Talent. This card right here, it's a little pricey, but if your opponent hits you with an Ash, or hits you with Effect Veiler, or hits you with whatever hand trap they got, you could activate this card. And most of the time you're going to draw 2 because you need those resources back from the deck to keep your Toon plays going. But if your opponent controls the Dragoon, and they activate you bait out the Dragoon's effect, and that's all they have, you could activate this card and you could steal the Dragoon, you guys. This is a non-targeting steal. You steal the Dragoon, activate his effect twice, blow up 2 of your opponent's monsters, and you pretty much proceed to attack for game. So Triple Tactics Talent's just too broken. It's at 2, and this is one card I always found, like, running it at 3, it does kind of get cloggy sometimes. But, you know, if it's not working too well for you, you could always side this out for anything else. So for me, 2 Triple Tactics. And then for another 2 from some draw power in the deck, run the 2 Pot of Prosperity. Now this card I was definitely running at 3 in all my other builds as well when it came out. You do not want to open multiples of these. This is only a once per turn. You know, you could banish 6 cards no problem and try to get to whatever cards you need. But if you open up with 2 of these, that's why I cut it down. Because if you open up with 2 of these, then you just have pretty much 1 dead card in your hand, because you can only activate once per turn. So Pot of Prosperity, I cut it down to 2, and it's actually working out really, really good. But this card is the best draw power for the deck, because you have no problem banishing cards from your extra deck. You just save the ones that you need, like Dragoons and stuff like that, and you just get to your Toon cards. That's really what you need. So 2 Prosperities is a must. And then for the 1-ofs, I run the 1 Red Eyes Fusion, the 1 Comic Hand, and the 1 Called by the Grave. Now, the Red Eyes Fusion's pretty self-explanatory. Got to go into the Dragoons play. The Comic Hand I run at 1 because it's just cloggy too. When you open up multiples of this, you actually want to search out the Comic Hand. You do not want to open it at all. You want it to be something that you could search off the bookmark and you could just steal your opponent's monster. So that's really good. And then Called by the Grave, like I said before, a well-placed hand trap can hurt this deck. So Called by the Grave, it's just a counter for that. And also, it's like its own hand trap in its own right. You know, you could just banish anything from your opponent's graveyard. You could even set it and banish a monster from your opponent's graveyard on their turn when they start going off with their combos. So that's really, really good. So these are my one-ofs. That's it for the spell cards, you guys. That's a total of 24 spells. And I run one trap card in the deck. And the trap card is MetaVerse. Because what would the Meta Bros be if they weren't running MetaVerse in this deck? Woo! But you already know, MetaVerse is a really good card in this build. Because you could just set this card. And if your opponent goes to try to blow up your back row, you could just chain this card and get your Toon Kingdom directly set from the deck to the field without having to banish 3 cards, you guys. So either that, or you could just activate this card to get the Toon Kingdom to your hand from your deck, and then you could go off with your Toon Dark Magician plays, because now you'll have a Toon card to pitch to do whatever else you got to do. So MetaVerse is a really good card. I did find myself citing this out a few times, but going first, or just in your first game, this card's really, really good, you guys. So MetaVerse at 1. And that's it for the main deck, you guys. 43 cards total. Now let's go on to the extra deck. All right, now starting things off with the extra deck, we're gonna start off with the fusions. I run the 1 Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, because you already know, you guys, Toon, he is the man. And I also run 1 of the Last Warrior from Another Planet. I'm gonna touch on him when we go into the side deck, you guys, but this is here for the side pretty much. 1 and 1. Now going into the links, I run the Nightmare package, the 1 Phoenix and the 1 Cerberus. Now these are just generic link 2s. You could always, most of the time you could always get 2 monsters out on board. There's pretty much no problem with that. It's hard to get 3, but 2 is highly likely. So if you got to go into some generic stuff to blow up some of your opponent's pesky cards, these are just generic link 2s you could go into. So the Nightmares. And then I run the 1 Vertanaconda for the Dragoon package. And then I run the Link 1s. I run the 1 Link Karibo and the 1 Anima. Now Link Karibo and Anima are in this deck because if they hit your normal summon with an Effect Veiler or an Imperm, you could just link off to go into either one of these. And the Anima's really good because if your opponent's not paying attention to where they're placing their monsters on their board, you could just suck one of them up, gain their attack, and then you could always either link off the Anima or you could do anything else with it just to get rid of that pesky monster. But the only thing is, you have to target a card on the field with Anima, so just make sure that monster you're targeting can be targeted. But otherwise, these 2 are very good. Okay, now we're going into the XZs. We're going to start off with the rank 7s. I got the 2 Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. Now this card's definitely very, very good in this deck because for I'll just give you guys an example. If you have a BLS, if you have a Red Eyes and a Dark Magician, all 3 of those monsters on the field, and you go to attack for game, if you do the math, that's 7,900. That means your opponent will still have 100 life points left. On main phase 2, you overlay the Dark Magician and the Red Eyes for this card right here, Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. And when you go to pass your turn, if your opponent activates any card effect, it will burn your opponent for 500, and that's pretty much the game, you guys. So Red Eyes Flare Metal is definitely a must at 2. The reason I put the second one in here is just because it's food for prosperity. Going into the next, rank 7, I run the 2 number 11 Big Eyes. Same type of deal for the Dark Magician and the Red Eyes, because most of the time you're going to have those 2 monsters out, so you could always go into these 2. This card just detached to steal one of those pesky monsters on your opponent's side of the field, and then you could either go off on a link or go off with whatever you need to do. Just get rid of that opponent's monster. So Big Eye, and same thing, the reason why I run them at 2, the second one's just food for the prosperity. And then my last 2 of XZs, you got to run the 2 Zeus. Zeus is my main man. Like I said, with the rank 7s, you're always going to have rank 7 plays available with this deck. So if you got to attack with the Big Eye or the Red Eyes, you could just overlay in main phase 2 to Zeus and just sit on them, blow up your opponent's field, do whatever you got to do with Zeus. And then if it goes back to your turn and for some reason you attack with the Zeus and it goes through and your opponent still ain't dead, you could overlay Zeus with another Zeus. So that's why I run them at 2. But the second one is also Pot of Prosperity fodder. Just, you know, in case you got to banish 3 right off top, you already know what 3 you're going to go into. And then the one-of XCs, I run the rank 8, Dingirsu. The reason I run Dingirsu is because you'll have 2 BLSs on the field. And then if you use BLS's effect each once, which will banish 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field, you could just overlay for the Ding to send another card that they control to the graveyard, you guys. So it gets rid of, essentially gets rid of 3 cards if you do the play. And then the last XZs I run is the Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon, because it's for the side, and it's also a 3500 attack beater that's unaffected by any other card. So very, very good. That's my extra deck, you guys. That's 15 cards. Now let's go into the side deck. All right, you guys, now going into the side deck, I just wanted to let everybody know that's watching this video, you guys, that this is just a skeleton of a deck that you want to build. You know, your side deck is my personal choice because of the people that I play against at my locals. So you guys will not have to follow this side deck. It's just my personal choices for what I play out here in my area. But I'll explain why I play what I play, you guys. So let's go. So first monster we're going into in the side, definitely Nibiru, you guys. You got to have Nibiru in the side. If it's not in your main, you got to have it in the side. This card just, it hits Drytron, it hits Salamangreat, and it hits any other combo deck that could just build a crazy board like Prank Kids. So Nibiru is definitely a 3-of in the side. You guys, you need this card. This card is the man. He is the Dwayne Johnson of the Yu-Gi-Oh world. Nibiru at 3. And then also another good play with Nibiru is if you're going second and you can resolve this card, your opponent goes to build the board, you could activate Comic Hand, steal the token, and attack with a big token, you guys. So pretty good. Nibiru, multiple uses in the deck. Last monster I got 3 of, you guys. I run the 3 Godarla. This is the Wind Kaiju. You need Kaijus nowadays, you guys, especially going up against a board like Drytron where they have the Herald that negates everything, and then they have a Dragoon on the field. Now, as long as you could get rid of that Herald with the Kaiju, then you could deal with the Dragoon, because the Dragoon's only a once per turn negate. So Godarla, I chose the Wind one because of the Tri-Brigade matchup. If they try to go with that Barrier Statue lock, then you could just use this Kaiju to get over whatever you need to get over. It's a win. So definitely run it at 3. And then this card right here, I'm going into the spells. This card right here is just broken, you guys. Dark Ruler no more. This is definitely going second up against a combo deck like Drytron. If they have multiple negates on board, hit them with Dark Ruler no more. If they don't have the Judgment to stop it, then you could pretty much set up your Toon board, and then there's nothing that your opponent can do about it, because they could try to attack into your BLS. You could just keep banishing to protect, and then when it comes to your turn, you just go into battle phase and attack over all their monsters and hit them directly for 3k. So Dark Ruler no more is definitely a really good card in this current metagame. And a lot of duelists are using this card over Droplet, because Droplet you actually have to pitch a card. This card you literally just drop it and it negates all opponents' effect monsters on the field. Your opponent cannot activate a monster effect in response to this card, which is really good because most of the time your opponent has monster effects that can negate. And then the only downside to this card though is your opponent gets no battle damage this turn, but you could still attack and you could still break the board. So Dark Ruler no more is really good in this format. Next spell I have, and last spell, I run the one-of, the second Comic Hand, you guys. This second Comic Hand, the reason why I put it in the side is because 2 Comic Hands in the deck is really good. You just do not want to open up multiples. And I've played in locals where this second Comic Hand came in so clutch, you guys. There were times where I opened up a Toon Kingdom and a Comic Hand in my first play, so I had to use the Comic Hand going early on, and my opponent would eventually get over it, and I was like, man, where's that second Comic Hand? And when I drew the second Comic Hand, it was pretty much game, you guys, because they would already have their boss monsters up, their board up, and this card just steals one of them, and it could attack directly like a Toon on the very first turn. So Comic Hand, the second Comic Hand is really good. I don't want to put it in the main because I don't want to open up with 2, but it's definitely a side. And then now for the traps, you guys. This is why I run those cards in the extra deck. I run the 2 Waking the Dragon. A lot of people would tell me, like, why don't you run this in the main right now? But the thing is, you guys, in this current metagame, there ain't too many decks that run back row hate. I mean, you might catch a Harpy's Feather Duster mained in deck here or there, but you'll never see like Cosmic Cyclone, or you'll never see Twin Twisters really in the main. There are some decks that do run it, but not most of them. So what I do with Waking the Dragon is, if I know I'm going first, and I know that my opponent has back row hate, I will take out the Dragoon package and side in these. And then, you know, I could side in whatever other third card from your side deck that you want, but I'll take out the Dragoon package, the vanillas, and the Red Eyes Fusion, and I'll add these two in there because this card right here can bring out Dragoon, you guys. If your opponent hits this, you can special summon the Dragoon to the field. You know, and even though the Dragoon won't have any pops, you'll still be able to negate and get the attack boost from the Dragoon. So it's very, very, very good. Waking the Dragon at 2. I was playing it at 3 in the side, but I needed to make room for that comic hand, you guys. And that comic hand is just a little bit more important than the Waking the Dragon. So run this at 2. And then for the last blowout trap card that I run in the side, you guys, Evenly Matched. Now this card right here is if you know you're going second in game 2, you side this in, going up against, you know, like a Drytron deck, they can get around it with their negates. But if you're going up against something like a Salamangreat deck, which only has, most of the time it only has one negate, in which is the trap card, the counter trap. Once you get over that counter trap, they literally have no more negates. So you just go right into the battle phase, end of battle, drop the Evenly Match, and watch them banish all their cards, you guys, except for one. So Evenly Match is a really, really good card going second, and it's definitely underrated right now in the meta. You guys, not too many duelists are running this in the main or the side, but you guys should be, man. This card's really, really good, and especially in this Toon deck. You know, you could also use it as an offensive card in the Toon deck, because if your opponent most of the time will blow up your board, you know, they could get over the kingdom. Once they get over the kingdom, then they're going to get over your Toon monsters because they're no longer protected. And so if for some reason your opponent cannot attack you for game, and you have this set on the field, once they're done with battle phase, you just flip it once your board's broke and watch them banish all their cards, you guys. So Evenly Matched is it's a good defensive card as well. Definitely run it at 3. And that is it for the profile, you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the Toon deck profile. You guys already know, man, this is my favorite archetype of all time, and I'm going to be continually working on this deck to improve it, you guys, because I would love to see the Toons one day top some locals and then top some regionals. Then you never know, you guys, the Toons might be on top of a YCS one day. But we are in hopes. We are very hopeful of this deck. Hopefully Konami gets more support out for the deck. That would be really, really awesome. But until then, you already know your boy's going to be working on this in the lab, you guys, and try to perfect this awesome archetype and deck. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, well, that wraps up the Toon deck profile. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, you guys, but this is going to conclude Season 3 of the MetaBros journey through the YouTube Metaverse. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. If you guys did, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button, you guys. You already know the Toons are going to be running wild all over SoCal, baby. And while you're doing that, be sure to subscribe to the Super Meta channel, because you already know the MetaBros are on to something big, baby. And everywhere Yu-Gi-Oh is, so are the MetaBros. And then if you guys are already subscribed to the channel, man, be sure to beat down that notification bell like there's no tomorrow, baby, to get reminded when we drop that first episode of Season 4, baby. But until then, you guys, Season 3, it's been a wild ride. We're already a year deep in the YouTube Metaverse, you guys, and the best is yet to come for the MetaBros, you guys, so stay tuned. Until next time, though, duelists, man, it's always a pleasure doing this for you guys. We love the Yu-Gi-Oh community. We love the TCG community, guys. And if it wasn't for you guys, the MetaBros wouldn't even be here right now. So thank all you guys for your continued support. And we cannot wait to see you guys in Season 4, baby. Woo! It's going to be crazy. Let's go, baby. But until next time, your boy, MetaBro J, you guys, I got to peace you guys out. Peace out, baby. MetaBro out. Woo! See you in Season 4, my dudes.